What really happened on Mount St. Helens? Of all the Sasquatch legends originating in the Pacific Northwest, there is one in particular that has captured the imagination of just about everyone who has heard it. It's a tantalizing tale of exploding volcanoes, giant hairy beings, shadowy government figures, mysterious helicopter evacuations, and more. The story begins on May 18, 1980, when Washington's Mount St. Helens, one of the most beautiful peaks in the Cascade Range, exploded in a catastrophic eruption, killing dozens of people and thousands of animals and raining destructive rocks, ash and debris across the region. After the eruption, a thick flow of ash, mud, and fallen trees choked the rivers and streams and smothered what had once been healthy forests. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and the National Guard were called upon to help in the rescue and recovery operations. While the hard-working men and women from these organizations worked to recover the bodies of deer, elk, bears, and other animals, it is said that they also came across the bodies of two Sasquatch. These bodies were set aside, covered with tarps and guarded by armed men, and witnesses were warned to keep quiet. Not all the Sasquatch found on Mount St. Helens were dead, however. One purported witness states that he and other men were told to follow a very large, hairy, man-like creature with a sad demeanor and a burned arm into the forest. They stopped at several isolated rocky areas with caves, and each time they stopped, the creature would make a strange sound. Sometimes there would be no answering call, while other times, a second creature would respond with the same sound. Using this method, the rescuers were able to locate some badly burned Sasquatch, who were then brought into the camp for medical attention. According to the tale, at the end of the rescue mission, there was a debriefing, during which the witnesses were told that the Bigfoot creatures lived in the forest and just wanted to be left alone. They were asked to keep quiet in order to protect the few creatures that were left. Another supposed participant of the post-eruption rescue mission stated that his Air Force unit was sent to the Mount St. Helens area to help with the devastation. They were issued M16s and green helmets marked guard, and were told to protect some of the military's medical tents and to prevent unauthorized people from entering the tents. This witness said he saw doctors guiding unusually tall people or creatures wrapped in overcoats with their heads covered into the medical tent. The injured beings were always covered with clothing and bandages, so that their faces and hands could not be seen. It was a mystery to the men what they were guarding, but they were told that they were guarding victims of the eruption and to not ask any questions. In most versions of the story, the rescuers completed their missions and moved on, without ever finding out what happened to the beings involved. Some accounts indicated that the beings were relocated to other parts of the Cascades, while others say that the beings were given a home on a military base, Joint Base Lewis McChord, which encompasses over 86,000 acres of mostly forested terrain in the South Puget Sound region. What exactly happened on Mount St. Helens following the eruption? Were burned Sasquatch beings really discovered and cared for by members of the military? Were they disguised as humans, wrapped in large coats and brought to makeshift hospitals for care? Many versions of this story exist online in various publications, videos, documentary films, and so on, but hard evidence proving these events actually took place has proven difficult to find. We may never have the full details of this event, but the story lives on as one of the most captivating Bigfoot tales of all time. In the heart of Alaska's Tongass National Forest, a group of hunters set out on what was supposed to be a routine grizzly bear hunt. The forest was dense and shadowy, with towering trees casting long, eerie shadows on the forest floor. As they moved deeper into the woods, one of the hunters suddenly noticed something unusual: gigantic footprints embedded in the soft earth, each over 24 inches long. These prints were not from any bear they had ever encountered. They were enormous and oddly human-like, sending a shiver down their spines. Intrigued and cautious, the hunters decided to follow the trail of these mysterious footprints. The forest seemed to grow darker and more oppressive with each step, the shadows deepening and the air growing thick with tension. Then, an overwhelming stench hit them, raw and pungent, like fresh feces. The group stopped in their tracks, their senses on high alert. Suddenly, from the tall grass ahead, a colossal figure emerged. It was a Sasquatch, towering and muscular, covered in matted dark fur. The hunters crouched down instinctively, their hearts pounding in their chests. The creature was so close they could hear its low, rumbling grunts and see its chest rise and fall with each breath. The hunters remained frozen in place, barely daring to breathe. The sheer size and presence of the beast were terrifying. Realizing they were completely outmatched, the hunters decided to retreat. Slowly, they began backing away, careful not to make any sudden movements that might provoke the creature. Once they were at a safe distance, they turned and fled to their boat, their hands trembling and their faces pale with fear. The encounter had shaken them to their core, leaving them with a haunting memory of the day they came face to face with the mysterious giant of the Alaskan wilderness. In a remote, desolate part of Alaska, two seasoned hunters found themselves on a caribou hunting expedition, miles away from the nearest sign of civilization. As they moved through a clearing surrounded by towering trees, they noticed a strange figure in the distance. At first glance, it appeared to be a large bear standing upright, but something about its movement caught their attention. The figure was walking upright between the trees, moving slowly and deliberately, almost as if it was aware of their presence. Its stride was too smooth and fluid for a bear, and its gray fur seemed to shimmer in the dappled sunlight. The hunters watched in silence, transfixed by the creature's unusual behavior. It was unlike any animal they had ever seen. As they continued to observe, the creature disappeared into the thick brush, leaving them with an unsettling feeling in the pit of their stomachs. The hunters exchanged glances, both of them thinking the same thing. They had heard stories about the Hayman, a legendary creature rumored to inhabit these parts. Now, standing in the silent wilderness, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had just witnessed something extraordinary, something that defied all logic and understanding. One quiet night in Haver, Montana, a young girl lay in bed, struggling to fall asleep. The house was dark and still, with only the soft rustle of leaves outside her window breaking the silence. Suddenly, she heard heavy footsteps approaching from outside, the sound growing louder and more distinct with each passing second. Her heart began to race as a sense of dread washed over her. Curiosity and fear battling within her, the girl slowly crept to the window and peered outside. Her eyes widened in shock. Standing just beyond the window was a massive dark figure. It loomed over her, towering 3 to 4 feet above the window ledge. The girl was paralyzed with fear, unable to move or even scream. Desperate for help, she finally managed to call out to her mother. Her mother rushed into the room and together they stared in disbelief at the creature outside. It stood there, almost motionless, its presence dominating the night. They could see that it was at least 7 to 8 feet tall, with broad shoulders and a muscular frame. The fear they felt was unlike anything they had ever experienced, intense, primal, and all-consuming. The creature eventually moved away into the darkness, leaving them shaken and terrified. To this day, the memory of that midnight visitor continues to haunt them, a reminder of the mysteries that lurk in the shadows of our world. A teenager decided to go on a solo camping trip in the wilds of Louisiana, seeking adventure and solitude. For the first few days, everything seemed normal. He set up his camp near a tranquil creek, enjoying the peace and quiet of the natural world. But as the days passed, strange things began to happen. At night he heard bizarre noises, rustling in the bushes, low growls, and distant echoing calls. In the mornings he found odd tracks around his campsite, unlike any animal tracks he had ever seen. A foul, pungent odor occasionally wafted through the air, making him uneasy. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he spotted something on the other side of the creek. It was a massive figure, standing upright, staring directly at him. The teenager's breath caught in his throat as he realized what he was looking at, a Bigfoot, towering and muscular, its eyes fixed on him with an unnerving intensity. Panic set in and he grabbed his flare gun, firing a bright, sizzling flare into the air to signal for help. The creature remained still, seemingly unfazed by the flare. The teenager could feel the weight of its gaze, the sense of danger growing with each passing second. Finally, unable to take it any longer, he turned and ran, not stopping until he reached the nearest road. The encounter left him shaken, a close brush with a creature that seemed to embody the raw power and mystery of the wilderness. The bonfire terror in Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, a group of friends gathered around a roaring bonfire in a gravel pit, enjoying a night of laughter and stories under the stars. As the flames crackled and danced, one of the friends noticed a pair of glowing orange eyes high up in a nearby tree. Thinking it was just an owl, they pointed it out to the others, who squinted into the darkness to get a better look. But as they continued to watch, they realized something was wrong. The eyes were too far apart, too high up, and glowing with an intensity that was anything but natural. Slowly, a massive, hairy figure began to emerge from the shadows, its enormous body silhouetted against the dim light of the fire. Panic spread through the group like wildfire. Without thinking, everyone bolted in different directions, running as fast as they could to get away from the creature. In the chaos, one boy was left behind. As he ran through the dark woods, he could hear the creature crashing through the underbrush behind him, getting closer and closer with every step. His lungs burned, and his legs felt like lead, but sheer terror drove him forward. Finally, he burst out of the trees and into the open yard of his house, slamming the door shut behind him. For a moment he thought he was safe, but then, the creature began shaking the house, banging on the walls with such force that he thought it might tear the place apart. The assault continued for what felt like hours, but eventually the noise stopped, and the creature disappeared into the night, leaving the boy and his friends with a story they would never forget. In spring 1988, a group of college friends on a spring break camping trip in the Sierra Nevada mountains stumbled upon something that defied explanation. While exploring near Round Lake, two of the friends saw a large pine tree shaking violently in the distance. As they watched, a massive black figure emerged, moving in a strange, almost deformed way. At first they thought it was a bear, but then it stood up on two legs, revealing itself to be much taller and more humanoid. Terrified, they ran back to camp to alert the others. As the group gathered, they noticed strange lights in the sky and heard eerie moans and whoops coming from all around them. The sounds grew closer, and they realized they were surrounded. In the dim firelight, they saw a large silvery figure darting between the trees, its eyes glowing red in the darkness. Then, the most horrifying sight of all, a Sasquatch, standing over 11 feet tall, watching them with an intense gaze. It breathed heavily, each exhale a loud growl that sent shivers down their spines. Suddenly another lighted figure appeared, and the Sasquatch turned and walked towards it, giving the group the chance they needed to flee. They left everything behind and never returned to that place, haunted by the events of that night and the knowledge that something out there was watching them. And there you have it, some of the most fascinating and mysterious Bigfoot stories hidden in the shadow of Mount St. Helens. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, these tales remind us of the many secrets our world still holds. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear more about the unexplained, please consider subscribing to our channel for more intriguing content. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about these forgotten Sasquatch encounters? Could there be more stories out there waiting to be uncovered? Until next time, keep exploring the unknown. The Shadow of Lake Tahoe. Prologue: The Disappearance. In the summer of 1998, Lake Tahoe's serene beauty was marred by the sudden disappearance of Emily Parker, a local college student. Emily was last seen hiking alone near the densely forested slopes of Mount Talek, a popular but challenging trail. Her disappearance sparked a massive search operation, but despite extensive efforts, no trace of her was found. Chapter 1: The Encounter. Years passed, and the mystery of Emily Parker's disappearance faded into local legend. However, in the fall of 2007, a seasoned hiker named Jack Stevens reported a chilling encounter that reignited interest in the case. Jack had ventured deep into the forest, off the beaten path, seeking solitude and adventure. It was late afternoon, and the forest was unusually silent. As he made his way through a particularly dense section of trees, Jack noticed a peculiar stillness in the air. The chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves had ceased, replaced by an eerie quiet. Suddenly, he heard a series of low, guttural grunts coming from behind him. Turning slowly, Jack caught a glimpse of a massive, dark figure moving swiftly between the trees. His heart pounded as he realized the figure was not a bear, but something far more unsettling. It stood upright, towering at least 8 feet tall, covered in dark, matted hair. The creature's eyes, deep and penetrating, locked onto Jack's, and in that moment, he felt a primal fear he had never experienced before. The creature let out a deafening roar that echoed through the forest, sending Jack fleeing in terror. Chapter 2: The Search for Evidence. Jack's account was met with skepticism, but it intrigued a small group of local cryptid enthusiasts. Among them was Dr. Karen Mitchell, an anthropologist who had spent years studying folklore and unexplained phenomena. Determined to uncover the truth, Karen organized an expedition into the forest where Jack had his encounter. Armed with high-tech equipment and accompanied by a team of researchers, Karen ventured deep into the heart of the Tahoe wilderness. They set up motion-activated cameras, audio recorders, and even scent traps in hopes of capturing evidence of the elusive creature. One chilly evening, as the team reviewed their recordings, they stumbled upon something extraordinary. One of the cameras had captured a fleeting image of a large bipedal figure covered in hair. The footage was blurry, but it clearly showed the creature moving with a grace and speed that ruled out any known animal. Additionally, audio recordings picked up strange vocalizations, a series of whoops and howls that defied explanation. The team's findings garnered significant media attention, and soon the area was swarming with journalists, scientists, and curious onlookers. Karen, however, remained focused on her mission. She believed that the creature they had glimpsed was connected to the numerous Bigfoot sightings reported across North America. As the search continued, Karen made a startling discovery. Deep within the forest, she found a hidden cave adorned with crude drawings depicting large, ape-like creatures. The drawings, seemingly ancient, showed the creatures interacting with humans, hunting, and even mourning their dead. Among the drawings was a haunting image of a young woman being taken by one of the creatures. Realizing the potential connection to Emily Parker's disappearance, Karen shared her findings with local authorities. The cave was meticulously examined, and forensic experts discovered human remains buried beneath the cave floor. DNA analysis confirmed the remains belonged to Emily Parker, solving the mystery of her disappearance after nearly a decade. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community and beyond. While the discovery of Emily's remains brought closure to her family, it also raised more questions than it answered. What was the true nature of the creature that roamed the forests of Lake Tahoe? How many more such beings existed hidden from human eyes? To this day, the shadow of Bigfoot lingers over Lake Tahoe. Hikers and campers occasionally report strange noises and fleeting glimpses of a massive, hairy figure among the trees. Some dismiss these as mere fantasies, while others believe they are glimpses of a hidden world, one where the boundaries between myth and reality blur. The legend of Bigfoot lives on, a testament to the enduring mysteries of the natural world and the unknown that lies just beyond the edge of our understanding. The Sasquatch of Mount St. Helens. Prologue: The Logging Camp. In the early 1920s, Washington state was a rugged frontier, with dense forests and towering mountains that seemed to stretch endlessly. It was in these remote, untamed areas that the logging industry thrived, and men came from all over seeking work and adventure. One such place was a logging camp near Mount St. Helens, a volcanic peak known for its imposing presence and the eerie stories whispered among the loggers. In the spring of 1924, a logger named Albert Osman set out to explore the area around the camp. Albert was a seasoned outdoorsman, familiar with the wildlife and the lay of the land. However, nothing could have prepared him for what he encountered that fateful day. As Albert trekked through the dense forest, he noticed the usual sounds of nature had ceased. The birds were silent, and even the rustling of small animals in the underbrush was absent. Suddenly he heard heavy footsteps behind him. Turning quickly, he saw a massive, hairy figure standing about 50 yards away. The creature was unlike anything he had ever seen, tall, muscular, and covered in dark fur. Its face, though partially obscured by the distance, appeared almost human but with pronounced brow ridges and deep-set eyes. Albert stood frozen in shock as the creature regarded him silently before turning and disappearing into the forest. He rushed back to the camp to recount his encounter, but his story was met with skepticism and nervous laughter. Yet, some of the older loggers exchanged uneasy glances, as if recalling old tales they had heard before. A few weeks after Albert's encounter, the men at the camp began to notice strange occurrences. Tools and supplies would go missing, and they often found large footprints in the mud around the camp. The footprints were far too large to belong to any man, and the loggers started to grow uneasy. One night, the tension reached its peak. A group of loggers was sitting around the campfire, sharing stories and trying to shake off their nerves. Suddenly, a series of blood-curdling screams echoed through the forest, followed by the sound of trees snapping and heavy footsteps approaching. The men grabbed their rifles and aimed toward the darkness. Without warning, a massive creature charged into the clearing, knocking over tents and scattering the loggers. The beast was enormous, towering over the men and moving with incredible speed and strength. It swung its massive arms, sending logs and debris flying. The loggers fired their rifles, but the bullets seemed to have little effect on the creature. After what felt like an eternity, the beast retreated back into the forest, leaving the camp in chaos. The attack left the men shaken and determined to rid the area of the terrifying creature. A group of loggers, led by Albert, organized a hunt to track down and kill the beast. Armed with rifles, and accompanied by a few brave volunteers from a nearby town, they ventured deep into the wilderness. For days, they followed the creature's trail, finding more enormous footprints and signs of its passage. They set up traps and kept watch through the nights, but the beast remained elusive. One night, while on patrol, Albert and his team heard a series of low, guttural growls. They followed the sound to a small clearing where they finally caught sight of the creature. The beast stood at the edge of the clearing, illuminated by the moonlight. It seemed to regard the men with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Albert raised his rifle, but something in the creature's eyes gave him pause. They were intelligent, almost human, and filled with a deep, primal sadness. Before Albert could react, the creature turned and vanished into the forest, leaving the men in stunned silence. The loggers never saw the creature again, but the story of the Sasquatch of Mount St. Helens spread throughout the region. While many dismissed it as a tall tale, those who were there knew what they had seen. The attack on the logging camp was a turning point, marking one of the earliest documented encounters with Bigfoot in Washington state. In the years that followed, more sightings were reported, and the legend of Bigfoot grew. Researchers and enthusiasts flocked to the area, seeking evidence of the elusive creature. Despite numerous expeditions and countless hours of searching, concrete proof remained elusive. Yet the stories persisted, passed down through generations, each one adding to the rich tapestry of the Bigfoot legend. The encounter near Mount St. Helens remains one of the most compelling tales of Bigfoot in the early 20th century. It serves as a reminder of the mysteries that still lurk in the remote corners of our world and the enduring allure of the unknown. Thanks for visiting and supporting my channel. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications.
Bigfoot sighting on Mount Shasta claimed by Emily Frank H., 4N Special Writer. Has Bigfoot ever been seen on the slopes of Mount Shasta? A logger named Virgil Larson claims he saw the legendary creature in September 1976 when he was employed by Columbia Helicopter Company, which was logging on the mountain. Larson says he saw a huge, bad-smelling critter whose hair started at its eyebrows and went straight back over its head. He said it wasn't a man, not even human, and claimed it stunk like a half-rotten bear hide. The sighting was south of Cascade Gulch on the lower slopes. Some say Bigfoot is a hoax, but Larson doesn't think so. Bigfoot sightings in Northern California and Siskiyou County are fairly common. Records show, for example, that Mrs. J. Pomeray of Butte, Montague saw in August 1956 what appeared to be a bear running across the highway just north of Mount Shasta City. But it was taking giant strides on two legs like a human. In 1962, in Bakersfield, California, man reported seeing a heavy, hair-covered creature 8 feet tall, dirty silver in color with a flat face and human-like hands. He claimed he was within 75 feet when the creature slowly walked away. arms hanging. And how about this, from John Green's Sasquatch File, about Bigfoot rescuing a Mount Shasta climber. The author failed to get the man's name, but the person claimed that while deer hunting on the mountain, he fell off a bluff and was badly hurt. A 9-foot thing shaped like a man, but reeking with the musty odor of a game animal carried him 2 miles to camp. Later, the man found 1 1/2 inch long, whitish hairs on his hunting coat. Again, in the mid-1960s, Henry Kirchhoff, Woodland Hills, California, reported that several hunting friends saw several sets of Bigfoot tracks. In fact, as far back as 1886, the Del Norte Record newspaper reported sightings of a giant creature near Happy Camp, a remote hamlet on the Klamath River in western Siskiyou County. The paper called the creature a wild man, 7 feet tall with a bulldog head, long hair and beard, but hairless on such parts of its body as is common with men. The name Bigfoot emerged in the 1920s, a brainchild of the press. At that time, Bigfoot referred only to creatures in Northern California, but later it spread to Oregon and Washington. Elsewhere, the same creature is known as Sasquatch, the English version of such Indian names as Soscatl, Soquestal, Samisogtiam, Saskatl, and others meaning wild man of the woods. The Hoopa tribe of Klamath Indians called him Oman-A, which was often shortened to Oma, while tribes in the Cascades called him Siatix. Happy Camp is well known as Bigfoot country. That's because of the many stories, including one from 1952 when a man was returning to Orland from Happy Camp during a heavy rainstorm on an extremely crooked and dangerous road. At a road detour, he was told to cross the river on a little-used dirt road through an area called Bear Valley. After driving about 20 miles, he saw in his headlights what he described as a shaggy orangutan resembling a human. Its wet hair looked blue-gray. The creature vanished behind a tree. Thinking he was overly tired and imagining things, the man drove on. Suddenly, his car went into a violent skid. As he brought the car under control, he glanced into the rearview mirror and saw a savage face, or thought he did. He had to stop to remove a fallen sapling that had fallen across the road. Hands on the tree, he was suddenly startled by the thud of running feet, and then was face to face with Bigfoot, who circled him and then came close. The eyes, he recalled later, were round and luminous. The hair on top of its low round head was rather short. Its eye teeth were far longer than a human's. Also, the chest and upper part of its torso were almost bare of hair and kind of leathery looking. It had a stooped, long-armed posture. Paralyzed with fear, he realized the monster was playing a game. It would stalk down the road, then charge back. When it stalked, the detoured motorist dashed for his car. No sooner was he inside when there was Bigfoot, clawing at the window. He gunned his car over the sapling. The creature clung to the back of the car, trumpeting screams of rage, but after a time, dropped off. Those who have tried to find Bigfoot say the story has credence. Bluff Creek, where the meeting took place, is near the boundary that separates Humboldt and Del Norte counties, a magnificent region slashed by the Klamath River and some of its tributary creeks. The forest floor is a tanglewood of prickly vines and shrubs, and the ground cover is so dense humans rarely penetrate the area. Until a road was constructed from the mouth of Bluff Creek into the mountains, no one except Hoopa Indians knew about Bigfoot. The Hoopas, who had a reservation nearby, chose to keep information about the wild man to themselves. There are more stories, too. In August 1967, almost 600 Bigfoot tracks were counted just west of Bluff Creek. And it was another time on Bluff Creek Road that Ray Kerr and Leslie Brazil, driving in a pickup truck one night, claimed to have seen a huge, dark, hairy, man-like figure. Another man, working for a road construction crew, claimed to have seen Bigfoot outside a shack. He quit the job the next morning. Several workers who stayed made casts of the tracks. They measured 15 inches long and had strange double bumps where the ball of the foot should have been. Which brings us back to the slopes of Mount Shasta. In 1955, John Chamberlain, a Eureka newspaperman, found prints on the mountain with the same curious double bump. They also measured 15 inches. Long intrigued by the persistent rumors of large footprints on Shasta, Chamberlain led an expedition, hoping to find evidence of the much-publicized Lemurians. Bigfoot stories were not common then. The group found and photographed large footprints. The prints show 2 knobby impressions and the stride measured 50 inches. They guessed the creature's weight at 450 pounds. Tracks were found near the 11,500-foot elevation level for more than 1,500 feet. More recently, in 1975, 2 women searched from Tula Lake to Eureka for Bigfoot. And in May 1976, Cherie Darvell insisted she had been abducted by a hairy, ape-like creature in the woods near Eureka. The most active Bigfoot searcher is Pete Byrne from the Dalles, who has spent considerable time and more than $100,000 in his searches. He wanted to provide protection for the Bigfoot breed, which he believes is a harmless, primitive man who should be left alone. Byrne fears someone will track a Bigfoot, blow its head off, and take what's left for commercial use. Byrne said that if he can establish that Bigfoot is real, it will be easy to obtain an executive order protecting the species. Because, notes Byrne, obviously, they are rare.
By Dave McVetti, Times Herald reporter. Just exactly what Bigfoot might be, if it exists, brings out some interesting theories. Wayne King, director of the Michigan-Canadian Bigfoot Information Center in Cairo, believes Bigfoot, or Sasquatch, or Yeti is a species of ape. But John Beckjord, director of Project Bigfoot in Seattle, Washington, believes the creature is something much more mind-boggling. These differences create a lot of hostility among groups of Bigfoot believers, and the experts are quick to discredit others' opinions. But they all seem to agree that a Bigfoot is bothering the William Barone family in the Brockway area. It's not something like an ape, there's more to it than that, Beckjord said. If it was just an ape, it would be dead somewhere and we would see it by now in a museum. I think we're dealing with a life form man doesn't know about. These creatures seem to have extra or maybe supernatural powers. They don't seem to die. If you fire a gun at one, they get wounded, but they never die. So what you should do is try to get pictures. These creatures seem to have extra or maybe supernatural powers. They don't seem to die. If you fire a gun at one, they get wounded, but they never die. John Beckjord, Project Bigfoot director. There is also a strange, unknown connection between Bigfoots and UFOs, Beckjord said. We really don't know what the connection is, he said, but they're often seen together. Some people say they've seen them come off flying saucers, but I don't know about that. Maybe Bigfoot does come off them and acts as a scout, or maybe they have some ability to attract UFOs. Anyway, it seems to be very friendly. If that theory is true, something to consider is the UFO sightings in the skies over the Blue Water area and Brockway Township, less than 2 weeks before the first Bigfoot sighting was reported at the Leland Shepherd Farm. Several area residents reported seeing a cloud-like formation with 4 visible lights over St. Clair and Lapeer counties during September. Beckjord said the Bigfoots have avoided capture for so long because they might be able to disappear and reappear. He also said they might have the ability to make their tracks disappear. Beckjord said they may have the ability to detect the emotions of people approaching them, and for that reason, it's usually children who see or come into contact with the creatures. If someone with hostile intentions approaches one, it runs, he said. But Wayne King and other Bigfoot people think the creature has more earthly roots. King has said it is a member of the ape family and has just enough intelligence to escape detection from humans. He said a strange smell noticed by Barone family members is a glandular excretion that some ape species release when they are cornered or nervous. King's goal is to shoot a Bigfoot to prove its existence. He said laws then could be established to protect the creature. But someone else, Kenneth Wiley, who has studied and even written a book called Bigfoot, has a different theory. Wiley, who lives in Sutton's Bay on Michigan's Leelanau Peninsula, believes Bigfoot is more than anything else a product of wishful thinking. I admit my book was skeptical, but I tried to leave open a door of doubt about it, Wiley said. Societies through the ages have had imaginary creatures that are sort of myths. After a lot of talk, somebody finally sees one. These people who believe in Bigfoot are sort of a cult. If you try to challenge them, they get real defensive. They believe if they keep looking, they will finally find one. He was asked, sort of like Linus in the Peanuts cartoon character, waiting for the great pumpkin. Yes, exactly, he said. Linus really believes in the great pumpkin, and he's going to wait in that pumpkin patch until he sees him. By Kane Bordeaux. Bigfoot has been the talk of the diner in the little western Louisiana town of Zwolle since word got out that Hosea Remedies sighted a hairy monster a month ago. Customers kept on talking about it, so I told them I would start serving a Bigfoot burger, said Sharon Leone Pierce, manager of Bill and Sissy's Diner. That lasted but one day. Some customers didn't find it funny to see their fears about a lurking beast posted as a joke. Bigfoot is no laughing matter to some folks in the bayous of central Louisiana, where there have been 4 sightings this summer, and some parents are keeping their children indoors. Some older people are so scared that they've given up the evening feeding of farm animals. Sheriff's deputies and wildlife officials say it's the work of pranksters, but logger Earl Whitstein isn't backing off his account of a hairy, foul-smelling beast. "People have made fun of me," he said, "but they didn't see what I saw." Whitstein and another logger said they spotted the creature on August 25th in some cypress swamps called Boggy Bayou, near Cotton Island, about 20 miles from Alexandria. That report prompted Larry Satcher, a fisherman, to say he had come across a similar beast in those same woods a few weeks earlier. Then, 74-year-old Remedis came forward with his own month-old sighting, a clear 100 miles away from Cotton Island, on the other side of the state, in Sabine Parish. He said he was mowing his lawn when the hairy Bigfoot appeared. Now, landowners around Zwolle are wondering if this doesn't explain some hogs that were killed these past months. Alan Rivers, Zwolle's assistant mayor, said a couple of his hogs were killed by something out there that's dangerous, that has some pretty big claws and pretty big teeth. Bigfoot, wildcat, hungry black bear. Retired game warden Steve Malik said he'd surely like to bag a Bigfoot. God dang, everyone has seen it, why can't I? Captain Brian Poston of the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries said the hysteria has gotten way out of hand. "As far as I'm concerned, any Bigfoot sighting is a hoax," he said. "I deal in facts, and until I am shown facts, I will not give them any credibility." Still, hundreds of folks visiting Mary Ward's bait shop in Cotton Island and Rapides Parish hardly talk about anything else. Her son Joe was one of the loggers who say they saw the legendary creature. Since then, the Wards have sold tickets and Bigfoot t-shirts to those who stopped to gawk at 16 massive tracks on her Cotton Island land. On Wednesday, LSU lab tests of hair taken from the Cotton Island sighting revealed it was from a horse, and Rapides Parish Sheriff's deputies formally closed their investigation without classifying it a hoax. The Cotton Island sightings echo a similar sighting 25 years ago, when Whitstein's father and a friend made a plywood Bigfoot footprint and laid down giant tracks in the woods. The prank was exposed and was largely forgotten until this summer, but Whitstein insists this sighting is for real. So does Satcher, the fisherman in Boggy Bayou. "I know what I saw, and it was no man in a suit." Section 4. The Heart of the Mystery Believers versus Skeptics. The debate rages on. Are these sightings real, or are they just tricks of the light, overactive imaginations, or even elaborate hoaxes?
Believers say the evidence is there. They point to the footprints, the hair, and the eyewitness accounts. They believe Bigfoot is a real creature that has managed to remain hidden.
Skeptics argue that there's no concrete proof. They say the footprints could be fakes, the hair could belong to known animals, and eyewitness accounts, they can be unreliable. People see what they want to see, especially when it comes to something as exciting as Bigfoot. The debate is unlikely to be settled anytime soon. And that's part of what makes the Bigfoot phenomenon so fascinating. It's a mystery that sparks our imagination, makes us question what we think we know about the world, and reminds us that there are still things out there that we don't understand. Section 5. Bigfoot's Shadow, the legend's impact on Mount Shasta. Whether Bigfoot is real or not, the legend has had a real impact on Mount Shasta. The town has fully embraced the Bigfoot phenomenon. You can find Bigfoot souvenirs everywhere, t-shirts, coffee mugs, even Bigfoot-shaped jerky. There are Bigfoot festivals and conferences. People come from all over the world to attend. They want to hear the stories, share their own experiences, and maybe even catch a glimpse of the creature itself. The legend of Bigfoot has brought tourism and attention to the area. But it's also important to remember that Mount Shasta is a place of natural beauty and wonder. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, there's no denying the allure of this majestic mountain. Section 6. The search continues. New sightings are reported every year. Researchers continue to investigate. Recent Bigfoot sightings in the Mount Shasta area continue to intrigue enthusiasts and researchers alike. In July 2022, a notable report came from the North Battle Creek Reservoir in the Lassen National Forest, where witnesses reported hearing Bigfoot-like howls and experienced a sense of being stalked, says BFRO. Mount Shasta will remain a place where people can come to explore the boundaries of what we think we know about the world around us. So the next time you're gazing at the stars or walking through the woods, remember the legend of Bigfoot. Keep an open mind. You never know what you might find. As we wrap up these captivating tales of Bigfoot sightings from Mount Shasta, central Louisiana, and beyond, we can't help but wonder about the mysteries that continue to elude us. Whether you believe in the legendary creature or view it as a myth, the stories shared by witnesses ignite our curiosity and keep the legend alive. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay updated with our latest content. I appreciate your support and love hearing your comments and sharing your experiences about Bigfoot and the unknown. Your engagement helps us explore and uncover the mysteries that captivate our imaginations. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey.
Jackson, Wyoming. Two men reported seeing a Bigfoot-like creature on Snow King Mountain near Jackson, Wyoming, early Tuesday morning, according to a spokesperson for the Jackson Police Department.
Robert Goodrich and Glenn Towner, whose ages and hometowns were not provided, told police that they were chased off Snow King Mountain by a Bigfoot-like creature that stood 12 feet tall, had long dark hair, and arms that nearly touched the ground.
The men said they were on their way to visit a friend who had built a lean-to on the mountain when they encountered the creature. Having not seen their friend for over a week, they went to look for him at 1 a.m. on Tuesday. As they approached their friend's lean-to, they encountered Bigfoot, the spokesperson said.
The creature was described as having a face as large as a stop sign, resembling an ape, and being hunchbacked. The men reported that the creature breathed heavily and made a moaning, growl-like noise. They fled when they saw the creature, which followed them.
The last they saw of it, it was standing under a streetlight near the Ramada Snow King Inn in Jackson. The two men planned to return on Tuesday to take pictures of any possible tracks and to search for their friend. Police noted that the men were not intoxicated, believe it or not. Although not a recent sighting, a Boulder Creek family claims to have seen Bigfoot in the Scotts Valley area.
Rhoda Walters and her son Carrie, 16, reported that in 1971 and 1972, a Bigfoot used to feed in the approximate 60-acre orchard adjacent to their home on Granite Creek Road in Scotts Valley. This location is near where two men recently claimed to have seen Sasquatch while camping.
At the time, the Walters lived in an old stagecoach house, which has since been demolished. One summer night, Kerry and his sister saw the creature.
Carrie had gotten up to use the bathroom and saw a shadow outside a window about 7 feet above the ground. A minute later, my sister screamed, Carrie recalled. He was 6 years old at the time, and his sister Renee was about 12.
My husband said it was a bear, Mrs. Walters noted, but it wasn't.
The next day, they found footprints about 9 inches long, wider than a hand, and with 3 toes. They later discovered that their neighbors had also seen something in the orchard. The neighbors had observed it several times and had even removed the back stairs of their house to prevent it from entering.
The Walters frequently heard crashing noises in the woods, and their horses would raise havoc for no apparent reason. The family also heard a high-pitched whistle that scared them but didn't grate on their nerves. Rainier, Washington. A Rainier man was terrified Sunday night after encountering a 400 to 600-pound creature prowling near his barn. He believes the creature might have been Bigfoot.
Bill Leon Buell of Route 2, Rainier, reported to state police that he heard something behind his barn at dusk on Sunday and went to investigate. He saw a dark, upright creature weighing between 400 and 600 pounds. Later, Buell and a companion returned to the barn and heard the creature approaching through the brush.
Buell fired a warning shot, but the creature continued to advance. The men fled to Buell's home, where he called the police.
Buell stated that the creature did not resemble a bear, and he believed it to be Bigfoot, a huge, unidentified creature reported in the mountainous regions of the Pacific Northwest.
Authorities who interviewed Buell said he was alert but terrified by his experience. Local group quietly investigates Bigfoot sightings, by John Mosley, news staff writer. For the past decade, an organization based in Dallas and Paris has been quietly investigating sightings and reports of encounters with Bigfoot.
The Bigfoot Investigation and Research Organization has kept a low profile to respect the privacy and confidentiality of those who file reports.
According to field investigator Kenneth Shepard, maintaining a low profile also helps protect and preserve any physical evidence found by investigators.
BIRO does not start investigations with preconceived conclusions.
The organization has spent over 100 man-years investigating sightings of Bigfoot in the United States, Sasquatch in British Columbia, the abominable snowman in Tibet, and Almas in the Soviet Union.
Biro focuses its research primarily in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Many investigations center around discovering large, human-like footprints along creek banks and river bottoms.
Shepard noted that strange occurrences are not uncommon in the four-state area where Biro operates. A recent sighting in Red River County, Texas, is under investigation, with plans to place the witness under regressive hypnosis to clarify details.
In mid-June, a resident of rural northeast Lamar County reported strange sounds, leading Biro investigators to find two large footprints in a creek bed.
In April, investigators found large footprints near a stock pond in Powderly. With the cooperation of the landowner and game warden Bill Milling, several plaster casts of the prints were made and analyzed.
The prints were determined to be faked, made by something flexible pulled over a shoe.
Shepard explained that unusual sounds and the behavior of dairy cattle and deer in the area are under investigation. Witnesses' names and exact locations of sightings are kept confidential upon request to avoid public ridicule. Bigfoot's family. Spotted near Blackfoot Reservoir. If Bigfoot is roaming the hills near Blackfoot Reservoir, he might have brought his family. 3 distinct and unusual footprints have been found, the latest and largest within the past week.
A local farming family found the strange prints in several areas, with one track just 20 feet from their home. The family believes a Bigfoot clan has taken up residence nearby.
Marsha Crane, an investigator for Project Bigfoot in Seattle, is cautious about declaring the tracks authentic, but insists they are neither bear nor human.
Project Bigfoot researchers in Seattle are enthusiastic about the find, and as more prints are discovered, my own enthusiasm grows. The Idaho Fish and Game Department is also investigating, but remains skeptical, suggesting the tracks might belong to a bear.
The largest tracks measure 18 inches, while the smallest, believed to be from Bigfoot Jr., are 8 inches long. A third set, 12 inches long, has 4 toes and a less pronounced wedge shape, indicating a possible deformity.
The first set of tracks led to rock crevices near the Blackfoot River, where ice caverns and caves are located. The caves and surrounding area seem like prime Bigfoot territory.
The farm family, preferring anonymity to avoid an influx of Bigfoot hunters, found the tracks 3 to 4 inches deep, suggesting a heavy creature made them. The family isn't frightened but feels proud to have a Bigfoot clan nearby. It's common for dogs to fear Bigfoot, who are known to carry off dogs.
They reported that 2 neighbors' dogs, which never strayed from home, recently disappeared, and visiting dogs often refuse to leave vehicles.
The area, with its rolling hills, dryland wheat farms, groves of trees, sagebrush and lava rock formations, looks like ideal Bigfoot country. I do believe in Sasquatch. You've probably heard that a member of the Sasquatch Research Project claims computer-enhanced footage from a 1967 sighting shows a metal cylinder, roughly the size of a 16-ounce beer can, according to the Yakima Herald Republic, on Sasquatch's right arm. This suggests, according to the researcher, that Bigfoot might be an extraterrestrial visitor. An ape doesn't have a cylinder on its arm unless it's an experimental creature, Erie Beckjord told the Washington newspaper. Well, duh. Tell us something we don't already know, Eric. Of course it's an experimental creature, if it has a metal cylinder on its arm. I know this because I live in the Northwest, where Bigfoot lore is as ingrained in our culture as campfire stories and s'mores. And I believe every word of it. I believe the account, British Columbia, 1924, about a man being kidnapped by a family of Sasquatches and escaping only after getting his captors high on chewing tobacco. I believe the story, Wilsonville, 1970, about a woman being thrown over a fence by Bigfoot and the One, Maple Valley, Washington, 1974, about a man claiming not only to have seen a Sasquatch but also to know of an underground tunnel running from San Diego to Seattle that they use, complete, I suppose, with an Eugene Springfield exit. I believe the legend of Bigfoot movie that suggests Sasquatches drag their dead thousands of miles north to the Yukon and deposit them in mountain crevices. Take that, skeptics who say there's no evidence because nobody's ever found a body. I believe the guy in Kirkland, Washington, I interviewed in 1988 who said he was sitting with his girlfriend in a VW Bug on a suburban street late one night when they saw, no doubt, A Sasquatch lumber across a two-lane street, heading towards a Burger King. I believe that in Renton, Washington, a woman who told me a Bigfoot-like creature came up to her back window and stared at her eyeball to eyeball. I shook my fist and said, "Get out of here," she said. It shook a fist back at her, then ran away, when suburban neighbors get ugly. I believe the Bellevue, Washington, man who said he saw two Bigfoot-like creatures in his neighbor's backyard, and one of them lifted its head at an angle, opened its mouth, and made a sound almost like a wolf. It was long and mournful. You'd cry out, too, if you couldn't get the cover off the hot tub. So anyway, that's what I believe. Now here's what I do not believe. I do not believe those who claim Bigfoot sightings are hoaxes. I do not believe Cliff Crook, the Bothell, Washington Bigfoot expert, who argues that the 1967 film was a hoax because 4 computer-enhanced frames showed what appeared to be a bell-shaped fastener at the creature's waist. Cliff, I've sat in your living room. I know what you're like. History suggests elusive Bigfoot could have roamed the Northwest for years. By Terry A. Smith, Journal staff writer. Bigfoot is nothing new. Long a legendary creature among Indian tribes in the Pacific Northwest, reported sightings of the ape-like Sasquatch date back to the era when white fur trappers roamed the region. One account tells of a hairy creature captured by a railroad crew in 1884 near Yale, British Columbia. The description of the creature, referred to as Jacko, closely resembles that of a young Sasquatch. According to newspaper reports, Jacko was taken to England for exhibition. The story ends there, and what happened to Jacko remains a mystery.
Marcia Crane, a Project Bigfoot investigator who lives near Montpelier, has researched the Jacko story. She said the creature was captured after someone dropped a large rock on its head while it lay injured at the bottom of a cliff. If his treatment was anything like his capture, he probably didn't live long in captivity, she said.
While most reported Bigfoot sightings, or the discovery of tracks and other evidence, have occurred in the Pacific Northwest, particularly British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, there have also been reports from remote areas throughout the United States, Japan, and Russia. Of course, there's the legendary abominable snowman, or Yeti, of the Himalayas. The Bigfoot controversy reached the Pocatello area in June when unusual tracks were found by a farm family near the Blackfoot Reservoir, north of Soda Springs. Mrs. Crane investigated the tracks and a reported sighting of a strange, hairy, 7-foot-tall creature near a retaining reservoir on the Blackfoot River, just a few miles from the city of Blackfoot itself.
If Bigfoot exists, and a Sasquatch is responsible for the tracks and the sighting, the locations would fit with behaviors attributed to the creature. Conceivably, Bigfoot could have followed the Blackfoot River to the retaining reservoir.
There are also reports of strange noises heard on the Fort Hall Indian Reservation, both near the Blackfoot River. Screeching noises, described by investigating police officers as animal-like, eerie and unearthly, were heard early on July 18th near Ferry Butte Road. A strong odor, described by an Idaho State police officer as like unwashed armpits, was also detected.
A strong stench is often associated with reported Bigfoot sightings or the finding of fresh tracks. However, Fort Hall police reported finding large cat tracks in the area and speculated that a mountain lion might have caused the disturbance.
Another report with a similar screeching noise was made to the Journal on July 22nd. Clayton McKinney of Pocatello said he heard it a few miles below Tilden Bridge, near the east bank of the Snake River. A few days later, a woman contacted the Journal and said her sons heard similar noises while camping near Tilden Bridge. Without the actual capture or killing of a Sasquatch, the Blackfoot Reservoir controversy will probably remain unresolved. Lee Bridges, a professional hunter, outfitter and track expert from Pocatello, studied several dozen plaster casts made by the farm family and concluded they were bear tracks. Idaho Fish and Game Department officials tend to agree, although they acknowledge their investigation hasn't been very thorough.
Marcia Crane disagrees, although she won't definitively say Bigfoot made the tracks. John Beckjord, director of Project Bigfoot in Seattle, doesn't believe they were made by a bear either.
The most striking plaster cast made by the farm family is a double cast, where a creature apparently stood with feet side by side. The prints measure about 16 inches. Bridges said they're merely an overlap of a bear's front and hind paws.
Beckyard countered that the odds of finding two perfect overlap tracks side by side are astronomical.
There have been other strange occurrences in the Blackfoot Reservoir area supporting the Bigfoot theory. Dogs have been reported to act strangely, even cowering at times, which Beckyard said is typical canine behavior when a Sasquatch has been around.
Even more interesting is the discovery of squirrel hides, which appear to have been stripped from their bodies like a banana peel. Beckyard claims this behavior is typical of Bigfoot.
During the past month, since stories on the strange tracks were first published, Mrs. Crane said she has received numerous calls about the matter. One woman reported seeing Sasquatch near Bear Lake, but Mrs. Crane questioned the credibility of the source, as the woman claimed the creature was beamed down from a flying saucer.
Despite dealing with potential crackpots, Mrs. Crane said. An amateur at Bigfoot investigations, Mrs. Crane has devoted much of her free time to research. Although a believer in the creature, she maintains a degree of skepticism.
She's also interested in a series of sightings and track and hair finds near Layton, Utah, but hasn't had time to investigate. Layton is located near mountainous country 25 miles north of Salt Lake City.
Ryan Layton, an independent Sasquatch investigator not directly affiliated with Project Bigfoot, told the Journal that some 30 credible persons have seen, heard, or smelled what he believes may be Sasquatch. He said many sightings and track finds have been near the Weber River.
Pieces of hair found will be tested to see if they match unidentifiable hairs from other areas believed to belong to Sasquatch. Layton noted that the smell has been described as sweaty, like an uncleaned body. A Bigfoot sighting was also reported recently near Jackson, Wyoming. Since Layton, Utah, the Blackfoot River, Jackson, and other recent sighting areas are not typical Bigfoot country, some investigators speculate that the Mount St. Helens volcano, located in more typical Sasquatch territory, has driven the creatures to search for more suitable habitat. While positive proof of Bigfoot's existence is yet to be produced, there are footprints, handprints, unidentified hair samples, a few photographs, and numerous sightings. Generally, Bigfoot is described as a 7 to 9 feet tall bipedal primate with dark brownish hair. Weight estimates range from 500 to 1,000 pounds. Reports of smaller creatures have been made, suggesting the existence of young Bigfoots. Perhaps the most convincing piece of evidence is a short film taken by Roger Patterson in Northern California in 1967, which shows a creature about 7 feet tall. No evidence has been produced to show the Patterson film is a hoax. A favorite question raised by Bigfoot skeptics is, if the creature exists, why don't we ever find any bones or skeletal remains? Washington State University professor Grover S. Krantz answers this in, while Krantz, a Bigfoot believer himself, says it's annoying bones haven't been found to prove the creature's existence beyond doubt, he doesn't find this fact disturbing. It is not normal to find the remains of large, uncommon animals, Krantz writes. I have yet to find a hunter or game guide who has found a bear that died a natural death. Hikers never come across the bones of wolves, coyotes, martens, badgers, etc., unless they were killed by humans. Krantz explains that carnivorous animals, which Bigfoot may be, instinctively hide in well-concealed places when sick. If they don't recover, they die there, and their remains are rarely discovered. It should now be obvious that the possibility of finding a naturally deceased Sasquatch is even less than that of finding a bear that died of natural causes. If a Sasquatch skeleton were to be discovered, it would almost undoubtedly be of one that died as a result of human action, Krantz writes. Another common question is, why has one never been shot or captured? Nocturnal by habit, shy, elusive, fast, and usually seeking remote areas, the legendary creature would not be easy prey. If one has been killed by a hunter, the incident has either gone unreported or proof of the kill hasn't been produced. And so the controversy lingers. But Bigfoot believers seem to be growing in number, especially among those who become involved in actual investigations. A member of the Blackfoot Reservoir family that found numerous tracks on their land was highly skeptical at first. He's not now. When you start seeing tracks and start following them, you start believing, he said. As we continue to explore the legends and sightings of Bigfoot, from the historic accounts of Jacko to the recent reports near Blackfoot Reservoir and beyond, the mystery of this elusive creature only deepens. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, these stories capture our imaginations and keep the legend of Bigfoot alive. If you enjoyed this journey through Bigfoot lore, please like, subscribe, and click the bell to stay updated with our latest content. We love hearing from you, so don't forget to share your Bigfoot experiences and thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps us uncover more about these fascinating tales. Thank you for joining us.
As you drift off tonight, let the mysterious rustle of the forest guide your dreams. These are true Bigfoot encounters pulled from deep within old newspaper archives and witness reports. Stories that speak of towering figures, echoing howls, and eyes glowing just beyond the firelight. Whether you're nestled in a mountain town or a quiet rural hollow, the unknown might be closer than you think. Before we begin, leave a comment and tell us where you're from. We'd love to check if there have been any sightings or strange happenings near your area. Now close your eyes and listen closely.